Welcome back, Focus Learners. Today, we are tackling a mission that is absolutely critical in our modern age, mastering digital content creation for the environment. Or, as the core of our source material perfectly frames it, çevre farkındalığı için dijital içerik üretimi. Let's just dive right into this. We are all completely bombarded with information every single second of the day, right? Our feeds are just this endless stream of memes, news, and updates. So how do we actually cut through all of that noise when the stakes are literally the future of our planet? Well, today's explainer is going to decode exactly how to build digital content that doesn't just get seen, but actually makes a tangible difference in the real world. Right off the bat, before we unpack the strategy, it's really vital to establish the context of this initiative. This entire mission is actually backed and funded by the European Union. So we're not just talking about some casual social media experiment cooked up overnight here. This is a serious, supported initiative aimed at moving the needle on global environmental consciousness. When massive international institutions are prioritizing and funding digital strategy, it tells us just how incredibly powerful these everyday social platforms really are for driving real-world change. They recognize that the digital space is exactly where the battle for awareness is won or lost.
Which brings us to a central question, and I want you to really think about this as we go through the explainer today. How is environmental awareness actually created on social media? Because, let's be honest, it is incredibly difficult. It is way more than just posting a pretty picture of a tree or dropping a terrifying statistic about ocean temperatures. The social media algorithm demands specific structures, and our attention spans are shorter than ever. Creating true awareness requires a very distinct, strategic architecture to shift someone from being a passive, mindless scroller into an active, engaged participant. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll define content for environmental awareness. Second, ways to be catchy. Third, tips for informative messages. And fourth, action-oriented digital steps. Okay, Section 1, content for environmental awareness. What does that actually mean when we're building digital content?
When we talk about creating content in today's insanely crowded digital landscape, we have to be incredibly intentional. Like, we are competing with high-budget entertainment, breaking global news, and just endless personal distractions. So let's break down the core concept here. When we say environmental awareness in this specific context, we're talking about building conscious recognition of environmental issues, specifically utilizing social media and digital platforms. These digital arenas are the modern battlegrounds for attention. If we want people to deeply care about the climate, about recycling initiatives, or local conservation, we absolutely must meet them exactly where they are already spending their time, and that is online scrolling on their phones. So the ultimate goal, derived directly from our source material, is simple in theory but challenging in execution: preparing content explicitly tailored for social media and digital platforms. You literally cannot just take a dense, deeply researched scientific white paper, copy the text, and paste it onto a social feed. Doesn't work. The medium entirely dictates the message. A giant wall of text fails on a phone screen because visual processing and scrolling habits demand quick, digestible formats. The environmental science has to be translated and optimized specifically for that glowing screen in your hand. Moving on to Section 2, ways to be catchy, or basically how to stop the scroll. Now, what's really interesting here is the emphasis on our very first pillar, being catchy, or as the original source brilliantly puts it, dikkat çekici. It sounds almost too simple, right? Maybe even a little superficial for such a serious, life-altering topic. But think about the psychology of scrolling. The modern user is moving through their feed at lightning speed. You generally have about half a second, literally, to make an impression before they swipe past you forever. Without capturing attention first, the rest of your meticulously researched message is entirely lost. It absolutely doesn't matter how important your environmental data is. If the algorithm sees users scrolling past it, it essentially ceases to exist. You must hook the viewer immediately. So what's the exact game plan here? Step 1 is strategically targeting those digital platforms. But Step 2 is where the magic happens, applying the Püfnoktalar. These are the specific tricks or fine points mentioned in our source for ensuring you actually stop the scroll. You are essentially designing a visual stop sign for the human thumb. For instance, instead of just using text to say deforestation is bad, a catchy hook might involve a striking, high-contrast visual that perfectly splits a pristine, lush forest on one side with devastating clear-cutting on the other. Combine that with a compelling opening hook and clear, bold text, and boom. That is exactly how you buy the few seconds of attention you need to deliver the rest of your message.
All right, section 3, tips for informative messages. How do we deliver real substance?
Okay, so what happens after we actually have their attention? We can't just be flashy. We have to deliver. That's pillar 2. It's all about being informative or bilgilandirici. You've just earned their attention for a brief, highly contested moment through your catchy hook. Now you must immediately reward that attention with solid, factual, and easily digestible environmental substance. If you don't do this, you fall straight into the trap of pure clickbait, and users will immediately tune you out. This is where your core scientific or environmental message lives. You are genuinely educating the viewer, but you are deliberately doing it on their terms.
Think about a massive, dense wall of plain data versus a beautifully designed, strategically informative digital message. On one side, you have a format that might be factually accurate for a university textbook, but it is entirely overwhelming and just wrong for a social media user. On the other side, the goal is to take those exact same core facts and break them down into highly visual, bite-sized pieces that the brain can quickly process while scrolling. It's really about respecting the science while simultaneously translating complex environmental data into an accessible digital language that anyone can understand instantly.
Which brings us to section 4, action-oriented digital steps. This is where we drive real change. Because let's be honest, awareness without action is just passive observation. This brings us to the absolute climax of the framework, pillar 3, making your content actionable, or harekete geçirici. Informed attention must absolutely be converted into tangible, real-world action. There's a huge danger in what we call slacktivism, where a viewer watches your brilliant explainer, feels really good about being informed, but then just closes their app and does absolutely nothing differently in their life. If that happens, the content hasn't fully succeeded. The awareness has to have a destination.
The crucial point is captured perfectly in this exact phrase directly from our source material, learning the tricks of preparing actionable environmental content. And honestly, the ultimate trick here isn't complicated at all. It's simply giving the audience a clear, incredibly easy next step. You have to tell them exactly what to do with the information you just gave them. Sign a specific petition, use a targeted hashtag, change one very small, highly specific daily habit, or simply click the link in your bio to learn more. You have to deliberately provide that digital stepping stone. That is the bridge between awareness on a screen and actual physical impact in the world.
Let's bring this all together into the complete picture. This is the Catalyst framework, derived directly from the logic of our source material. These are 3 perfect structural pillars that guarantee highly effective digital content for the environment. It's basically a chain reaction. 1, it must be catchy to freeze the thumb and stop the scroll. 2, it must be informative to educate the viewer and provide genuine substance so they stick around. And 3, it must be actionable to funnel that newly acquired knowledge into real-world change. If your content hits all 3 of these pillars simultaneously, you are vastly maximizing your digital impact. So I want to leave you with this final, vital thought to deeply consider as you go forward and create. You now possess the structural blueprint, right? A method backed by serious institutional initiatives to truly cut through the overwhelming digital noise of our modern internet. Knowing exactly what you know now about the delicate balance of being catchy, deeply informative, and highly actionable, how will your next piece of digital content actually change the world? Take this powerful 3-pillar framework, apply it relentlessly to your own environmental advocacy, and let's start creating digital messages that truly matter. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.